Good morning and welcome to KidNuz. I'm Tori. Today is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. And we begin with Joe Biden currently packing up a lot of stuff as he prepares to move into the White House tomorrow. But one thing he likely won't be able to lug along, his family's Peloton bike. These popular workout devices have an internet-connected camera, plus a microphone and networking equipment, which would be a big security risk at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But there may be a solution to allow the spinning to continue. The magazine Popular Mechanic says there are reports that Michelle Obama had a modified Peloton without a camera and mic when she was First Lady. And the Secret Service could make sure the stationary bike is in a secure area and prohibit any classified conversations from taking place nearby. Late this afternoon, lights may shine from coast to coast in tribute to American lives impacted by the coronavirus. The Presidential Inauguration Committee is inviting cities around the country to illuminate buildings and ring church bells at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a national moment of unity and remembrance. In Washington, D.C., a lighting ceremony will be held around the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. We'll all have to watch from a distance. In D.C. and at all 50 state capitals, security is tight to make sure the transfer of power takes place peacefully and that there's no repeat of the protests that got out of hand on January 6. Inauguration planners say they are confident that peace and order will prevail. Call it pepper power. Scientists in Shanghai, China have found a way to make solar cells more effective by adding a pinch of the chemical that makes hot chili peppers super spicy. Just a dash of capsaicin reportedly gives regular solar cells virtually the same power output as the most expensive panels. The exact reason for the improvement is still under debate, but researchers say this is no gimmick to grab headlines. They say the green, sustainable, and inexpensive additive is considered very promising and could lead to widespread commercial use. Figure skater Nathan Chen wins the men's U.S. national title for a record 5th time. The 21-year-old hasn't lost a competition since a devastating performance at the 2018 Olympics, where the medal favorite bombed the short program and ended up 5th overall. So his sights are now firmly set on the next Winter Games in Beijing, just 13 months away. 72 tennis players are now in a strict 14-day quarantine ahead of the Australian Open. This was ordered after a 5th positive coronavirus test from a passenger on one of the chartered flights that was bringing players, coaches, officials, and media to Melbourne for the season-opening tennis major. There are no plans to delay the tournament any further. It's already starting 3 weeks later than usual on February 8th. Making soft-serve ice cream at home has always been a challenge, but a new machine could change that thanks to some creative kids. Matthew Fonte, the engineer behind the product, says when his 2 daughters were young, instead of bedtime stories, they came up with an invention journal. One suggested an at-home ice cream machine. Mr. Fonte dismissed the idea as too complicated and messy until the child asked, "What about a Keurig coffee machine for ice cream?" So their dad came up with a device called Cold Snap. You insert a recyclable ice cream pod of varying flavors, and it can dole out a serving in 90 seconds flat. Right now, it's only in the prototype stage, with plans to launch in select locations this spring. The price tag, though, anything but sweet. Currently set at $1,000, the company hopes to eventually cut it in half. That's it for KidNuz. Now, the KidNuz quiz. What exercise equipment could cause security problems in the White House? A Peloton bike because it links to the internet. What chemical reportedly makes regular solar cells more effective? Capsaicin, which makes chili peppers super spicy. How many times in a row has Nathan Chen won the U.S. Figure Skating Championship? A record 5 times. Why are 72 tennis players in a 2-week quarantine ahead of the Australian Open? Five people on their plane tested positive for the coronavirus. And one for the road. Have you ever met someone with the same name as you? Paul O'Sullivan of Baltimore did a random search on Facebook of guys with the same moniker and found quite a few. A good number of them became friends, and it turns out 4 were talented musicians. So, of course, they had to start the Paul O'Sullivan Band. Baltimore Paul and Rotterdam Paul are on guitar and vocals, Manchester Paul is on bass, and Pennsylvania Paul is on percussion. They'd released a single in early 2020, but used the last year's lockdown to produce a whole album online, which Pennsylvania Paul said gave him a lot of satisfaction, knowing they could still accomplish things despite the adversity. Before we go, a big KidNuz shout out to some of our rock star teachers and their students. Mrs. Montes at Vela Middle School in Brownsville, Texas, Miss Knapp at Acacia Elementary in Fullerton, California, Mrs. Mickle at Northeast Range in Babbitt, Minnesota, and Mrs. Sloma at Lyons Park, whose fabulous 4th graders are rocking remote learning in Mount Prospect, Illinois. Thanks for listening. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We hope you tune in for more KidNuz tomorrow morning.